Thank you. I'm the NPM CLI project lead. I'm going to be talking to you about the future of NPM, but also the present and the past, because sometimes it's easy to lose track of all the things going on. And let's see if I can advance slides here. Do you want to advance? There you go. So yes, if you want to follow along on your laptop and see the slides there instead of on the big screens, you can do that. So today we're going to be talking about what NPM actually is. We're going to be talking about reducing friction, which is the core central tenet of NPM company. We're going to be talking about polish, speed, security, collaboration, and community. We're going to be talking about the future. Any tag that's about the future, any slide that's about the future will look like this. I'll have a little future tag in the corner. That way, like future things, they might be out next week. They might be out next year. They might just be vaporware. This is just like, when we look at the future, where are we seeing it going? That's what these slides are about. There's the present. These are things that you can use today. You might have to get the latest bleeding edge version of the CLI, or go visit the website again, but they're out there. And then the past is the fertile soil that all of this came out of. It was a long path to get here. We'll be talking about that too. So we're going to start with, what does NPM do? And NPM, that's not a slide. Where is my image? Oh no. I have no images. All right, we may have to go low tech. All right, we're going low tech. So what is NPM? NPM is a company, amongst other things. There's NPM Inc. It's where I work. There are just under 30 of us. We're a venture-backed company based out of Oakland, California. What we do, oh, right, can't use that. What we do, we run the registry.npmjs.org, and we run the website, npmjs.com. And we fund the CLI development. There are 2 full-time people working on the CLI, and I'm one of them. And we make money by selling access to private packages. So you can go, I want to have private packages. I want packages that I control access to. $7 a user a month. That is our primary revenue. And the way private packages work, I have to tell you a little bit about scopes. Scopes are something where your username, you can put a package under that username. You can create an organization account for a company or an open source project or whatever, and those can have packages under them, and those packages can be private. Scopes are, they're actually one of the very first features shipped under NPM Inc. They were an NPM 2 feature, and they're how you do private. And that also gets rid of the namespace problems, like all the great names are taken. There are 500,000 modules. Put it under a scope. It's not a problem anymore. As I said, private packages are one of the things that NPM does. The other thing NPM does is NPM Enterprise, which is a private registry that goes behind your firewall. It does big company things like single sign-on, like auditing, security controls, things like that. And in the future, soon, we'll have NPM Enterprise in the cloud, which means you'll be able to go, I want this entirely private registry that's all my own, but I don't want to have to run the servers. So that is a soon product. So to talk about how we've polished NPM, one of the first things we did with NPM 5 was an always-on offline mode. What this means is you go to install, you're on, your network is down, can't get a Wi-Fi connection, but it's in your cache. It installs transparently from your cache. Doesn't have to prompt you, does this with almost no delay. Or if you're on a really spotty connection, and so it can talk to the registry, but it's not good at talking to the registry, that's why we have prefer offline. And so you can ask for prefer offline in those scenarios, or you can just turn off your Wi-Fi. In the future, I'd like to have time travel. Wouldn't we all? Time travel. What this means is, say someone reports a bug in something that you've written, and you can't reproduce it, and you're pretty sure it's being caused by a transitive dependency that had a bug when they installed it and doesn't have it now, but you'd like to know for sure. Time travel would allow you to say, I want to install modules as if it was last Thursday. And it would install modules as they were last Thursday. Another thing that we did for NPM 5 is better install summaries. In NPM 2 and NPM 1, we would display a tree for every top-level module that was installed. With NPM 3, we displayed a single tree for everything that was installed. With NPM 5, those trees had gotten really big. It was great when you had 30 modules you were installing, not so great when you had 300 modules you were installing, and totally out of control when you had 3,000 modules you were installing. And that's not that uncommon anymore. So now it just gives you a summary, very short, brief line. And relatedly, our error messages. NPM error messages, historically, had grown and grown to add diagnostic information to them, where you had to hunt for the error message in all of the textual output. And with NPM 5, we've reduced it down to just the error message and a link to the log file. So if you want the diagnostics, you can get them, but you don't have to go digging through. You don't have to learn how to read the error message to actually find the error message. And soon, we're going to have a new round of better documentation, tutorials, more task-oriented documentation. We just hired a tech writer. I'm so excited about this. Our first thing was with two-factor authentication, which we'll be talking about in a little bit, but she wrote up some great documentation for the launch of that. She started just as we were launching the product. Very excited to have all of that coming output. Another NPM 5 thing that we have now is save by default. And this was a long time coming. It was fundamentally a paradigm shift in how the NPM tool works. For a long time, people had asked for it, but at the same time, historically, NPM was a tool that was fundamentally modeled the way it worked as mutation. You gave it a command to mutate your node modules folder, and then maybe you made note of it in your package.json. And we're moving towards a synchronization model, which means you update your metadata, and then you say, make everything look like my metadata. So you modify the package.json, then you synchronize the node modules with the package.json. Save by default is a key piece of moving to that synchronization-oriented workflow. It would be wrong for me to skip over registry stability, which, if you were using Node in 2013, you'll recall it wasn't great. It was a hard time because the massive growth rate just before that little black bar had been so much that the registry was having trouble staying online. And since NPM Inc. has taken that over and has spent the money on it, we've had all of that growth after the black bar. And it has been pretty stable. And that's a testament to our operations team and our registry people. It has been mostly invisible. One of the things that we want to do with newer versions of NPM 5 is introduce new standalone tools that are highly tailored to specific actions. And the first of these is npx. npx allows you to, it's a new command that shipped alongside npm, and it allows you to run binaries that come from your dev dependencies and your regular dependencies. So if you have gulp installed as a dev dependency, you can run npx gulp, and it will just execute that. But npx takes this a step further. if you don't have it installed as a dev dependency, it will go and install it for you temporarily and then execute it. So you can directly run these without ever having to add them to your config or install them globally. Just transparently makes it work. And there are a bunch of great tools that you can run this way. There's a URL at the bottom that you can follow, and it will take you to a GitHub project that has a bunch of community-collected commands that work well with NPX and work well with this model. But really, the list, a complete list there would be hundreds long, thousands long. There's a lot on the registry already, more than we even realized when we started. So moving on to speed. Speed has been one of those ongoing sorts of issues. Speed is important until it isn't, until it's fast enough that you don't notice anymore. And then you start doing more with your tools, things you couldn't do before, and suddenly they feel slow again because you're doing so much more with them, and yet they have to get faster. So NPM 5 brought substantial speed increases, I think it's fair to say. This is a chart that we put together for the 5.0.0 release, and that took an install that was 50 seconds and brought it down to 11 seconds. And since we've done that level of speed increase again since then. So that install would now take 3 seconds. At this point, there are 3 package managers for the registry that are under active development. They're all roughly the same speed, depending on the workload that you give them. But things could be faster. And the way that you make things faster at this point is you do less. And so this will be a new command, much like NPX. And NPM CI is, as the name suggests, designed for continuous integration environments. And it does less in that it only looks at your package lock. It doesn't know anything about the rest of your project, and it expects to be installing cold from that, like you do in CI environments, like you do in production deploys. Very stupid, also twice as fast. So NPM CI is one of those things that almost landed in time for the conference, didn't quite make it. It'll be out in the next couple of weeks. The NPM website has also gotten a lot faster. This one is, I think, more subtle. It really depends. You know, it's like, you notice it if you have to go back. And by more subtle, I still mean, you know, the website has seen the same kind of growth the registry has, so it's had to do a lot to keep up with that. But I mean faster, like we took requests to a package page when you were logged in, and previously they had 500, 600 milliseconds of latency before you even got the first byte, and now it's consistently 200 milliseconds latency. So 2.5 times faster. And that shows up in total page load times as well. Total page loads went from 15 seconds, upwards of 20 seconds to load, down to 5 seconds to load the page. All of this just makes it become less visible. It should disappear into the background. This exists mostly because I wanted to have the picture of the corgi. But when you install a package, we have to get a list of all the information about that package from the registry. And this has all the versions that were ever published, when they were published, and a bunch of other information about them. And we call those pacuments. And pacuments can get really big because they include all of your package JSON information. And one of the things that most people don't know is that also includes all of your READMEs for every version are in these. Those are all downloaded when you get this data. And like every person who's ever favorited your package, if you have 150 stars, there are 150 entries in this document. This was all, we didn't need any of that to do the install. So we made a smaller one, and it's now widely in use, substantially reduces the amount of transfer to get package metadata. We call those smaller ones because they're smaller corgis, thus the corgis. Search has also gotten much faster. It's not only faster, of course. This was last year's Christmas gift, if I remember right. And it's not only much faster than it was, but also gives better results. So it's not just giving you the same results at a higher speed, it's giving you better results at higher speed. But moving on from speed, we can go to security. And security, like speed, is an ongoing concern. It's a process, not a destination. Because of that, we employ a company called Lyft Security. They review our code. They they check our network. They validate what we're doing. They also run a project called the Node Security Platform. And that's a great tool. It will go and look through all of your dependencies, all of your transitive dependencies, and tell you if there are any known security vulnerabilities in any of those modules. And you can use that by just doing npx nsp check, and it will go check your current project. This is one of those ways that npx is great. You don't have to manually go and install nsp. You can just npx nsp. And NPM Enterprise comes with NSP built in. And it has some other security-related features, like you can whitelist and blacklist packages explicitly and specifically to your organization. This is particularly important to organizations that do compliance, that are having to do, where the regulations for their industry require that they vet every piece of software that goes out into production. Whitelisting allows them to very easily put that integrate that work with engineering. A popular point of discussion is typo squatting. Typo squatting has, as best as we can tell, never actually resulted in an effective attack because all of the typo squatted packages that we've found have no meaningful number of downloads. Just enough that our mirrors and spiders and security bots scanning them. They are a real thing. Most recently, we saw one that was, it would provide you with the module you thought you were getting, and then in the background, it would spawn a Ethereum coin miner, and then send those mined coins off to whatever account they had. So they would, if you accidentally installed this, then you would end up having your servers mining Ethereum coin for the attacker. We have a number of approaches. We'll stay here. We have a number of approaches to how we're dealing with typo squatting currently. We have a channel where anytime a package is published, we get a notification if a name seems confusingly similar to an existing name, and then a human looks at that and goes, okay, is that a legitimate package, or are there, or is that obviously malicious? We also get a lot of user reports, and those go to our support team, which funnels them to our operations team, which then deletes them off the registry. The unpublished policy doesn't apply to malicious code. In the future, we hope to have, there are a number of things that we're currently doing to deal with typo squatting. One is adding a machine learning component to the detecting of malicious packages. Another will be to make it so that when you go to install something for the first time, or you run npx in the name of a thing that you want to run, we'll go and check to see if there's a more popular package with a very similar name. And if that's the case, we'll be like, okay, I know you typed glup, but maybe you meant gulp. And if that's the case, then you have a chance to back out and do what you wanted there. And the way that will certainly work is once you've approved it once, you don't have to keep approving it, of course. Another thing that we've done this year for security is two-factor authentication. This helps ensure that we know that you're really you. This allows you can set it up in your command line today. You get a little barcode in the terminal and scan it with your phone. Two-factor authentication, we have it in two modes. We have auth only, which means that when you go to log in, then we'll ask for the two-factor. This is the way most sites work. And then we have auth and writes, which is actually what the default is. And that means if you go to publish, we'll ask for two-factor. If you go to change the ownership of a module to transfer it to someone else, we'll ask for the two-factor. It means that if somebody steals your, I should back up and say, all right, so what auth only protects you against is somebody stealing your password. What auth and rights protects you against is somebody stealing your authentication key. Your authentication key is the thing that goes here in your NPM RC. It's a long hex string. Auth and rights means that if they steal that, the worst case scenario is they get access to your private modules, but they can't impersonate you on the registry. They can't publish dangerous things under your name. They can't transfer everything to somebody else. In the future, we want to do more with two-factor authentication. We want packages that can only be published with two-factor authentication so that you can add somebody, an open source contributor to your package and say, I trust you to do this, but you need to have two-factor on your account if you're going to do it. And similarly, as a consumer, you want to know which packages were published with two-factor. So how that will work, I'm not sure. That's why it's blue sky, because there's trade-offs, because it's also, of course, making known which packages don't have two-factor, which isn't great either. So I don't know exactly what that will look like. We have these authentication tokens, access tokens. With NPM, with a release, I guess, NPM 5.5, you can now create and manage these access tokens from the CLI. And these access tokens allow you to, you can just create a normal one, which is just like logging in. Or you can create a read-only one. Read-only tokens can't publish. They can't change ownership. They're like that lockdown version from before, except that it won't even ask for two-factor. It's just not allowed to do it. So if these are the kinds of tokens that are good to give to continuous integration environments if you don't publish from them. If you do publish from them, the other feature comes in, which allows you to restrict to access to write operations. Actually, it allows you to restrict access entirely to that authentication to a specific IP range. So you can say, only Travis may use this token, and I'm installing it with Travis. And then if Travis has a security breach, anyone who stole that token would have to actually log into a Travis system in order to actually use it. So it's a bit of defense in depth. We have some documentation on how to use it. And there's a lot more that we can do with access tokens in the future. Make an access token that requires that you use 2FA or that is free of two-factor auth, even though the rest of your account has it, because some people like to publish from continuous integration. If you have two-factor auth enabled, you can't, because it'll prompt you for that second factor. So if you can make something, a special exemption just for your CI environment, it could do that. The things that we could do with access tokens it's very broad. Something else that's been on our minds is package signing. This is not something that has really been successfully integrated into any programming language culture up till now. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Some technically have support, but like broad signing and verification of signatures has not been common. And that's something where when we do this, we want to make sure that happens, that every install is verified, that users are encouraged to actually sign their packages. That will be tricky, but I think it's doable. Historically, we put hashes on. This isn't actually a security feature. It's a package integrity feature. But it's important because that's what we would sign if we were doing package signing. And we recently updated those hashes to SHA-512. While SHA-1 doesn't have any known exploits, it is known to be vulnerable. So it's just a matter of time. So this is part of getting ahead of that. All new packages published with current versions of NPM will have both a SHA-1 and a SHA-512. So older modules can still get, older package managers can still access the integrity, but new ones get the better SHA. Shrink wraps historically lock down version and the source of the package. With NPM 5, they now also include the SHA, so they know that you are actually getting exactly the same byte-for-byte thing that was installed when it was first created. And we introduced package locks. And the difference between a package lock and a SHA is that package locks can't be published. Or a package lock and a shrink wrap is that package locks can't be published. Shrink wraps can. Package locks are intended for your local team development. Shrink wraps are intended for consumers of like an application that you're publishing. Collaboration. So NPM Enterprise also includes a copy of the NPM website. And this means that if you've got a larger organization, you've got a couple hundred employees, you can search through all of the published modules just like you would on the public registry. Makes it much easier to find and use one another's code. Smaller organizations don't really get a benefit from that because if you've got 8 people, you can find each other's modules. And that's where NPM orgs is. NPM orgs is you can go to the website and sign up. You can create a open source org, or you can create a commercial one where you'll pay for seats, and then if it's commercial, then you can have private modules on it. It's the other half of NPM, the corresponding piece to NPM Enterprise. NPM Link, we would like to extend to be a core development tool so that your development environment is saved so that it can be restored and that other people using your development environment reproduce it, but when you publish it, those links aren't there. And relatedly, workspaces is a feature that was originally spec'd out by some of the folks in the Yarn community, I don't know, six or 7 months ago. And we've looked over that, and we think it's a good idea, and we'll be implementing that in NPM as well. I should say what workspaces actually are. So workspace is a monorepo tool. So you make a directory that has a bunch of other modules in it, and you declare it as your workspace. And when you run npm install, what it will do is it will cross-link all those modules. So anywhere that they require one another, they'll get a link. And what's more, all of the dependencies for everything will be installed at the top level. And so this means you can just directly edit any of the modules, and because they're all cross-linked, you don't have to reinstall to see the changes. But when you publish, they're all published as separate versioned modules with normal Symver requirements. So they look completely normal when they're on the registry, but your development flow is in a monorepo. I'm actually going to skip to get dependencies Symver. And then. So we've made some effort to improve the accessibility of the NPM CLI as an open source project. For a long time, it had internals that were very hard to approach. It would take us several months to onboard somebody. It was quite difficult. We've been moving the modules out to separate tools. So this has out into separate modules. The separate modules are much easier to approach. They're smaller. They have a confined set of scope. They're independent. You can use them on their own. They're great. If you want to do anything with playing with the registry, they're absolutely the place that you should start. We also wrote a contribution guide that somewhat differs from most contribution guides. We found that we were getting quite a few pull requests, but contribution in other ways was variable. And so our contribution guide actually focuses on things like, so you want to help out in the issue tracker. So we want to write some documentation. Here are the things that you should know. That has been a great help. It's substantially improved the quality of the contributions we've gotten. I highly recommend that. If you need help with NPM itself, I encourage you to join the WeAllJS Slack and join the NPM channel. If you want to help work on NPM itself, you should join the package community Discord and join the NPM channel. Package community has a broader range of package managers. There are package managers represented there from a dozen different languages, and because we often have similar concerns, we want to talk about how do you deduplicate your modules? What is your resolution algorithm? What do you do in this conflict case? It's been very helpful. And so, where are we going to go from here? The future is still the web. And one of the things that's changed for the Node.js community, and we've been saying this for a while, but is that most users are mostly writing for the browser, mostly not writing for Node.js. Lori did this little informal Twitter poll and got 55% writing mostly for the browser. And that is the future. And the future is things like ESM that works both in your browser and in Node.js. It's things like web components that make the web work more like it used to work, where you can just load up a web browser and point it at the thing that you're editing, and it works. And you don't have to have the build step is optional. You have to do the build step for production. But build steps are annoying in development. I hate build steps. I think we can do this. I think we can build a future where we don't have to do that while we're doing development. We're going to have some, there are some crazy ideas coming out in the next year that I think will move us towards this. So if you want to, you can come find me later for stickers. I have all kinds of stickers, including stickers specifically for this conference, and or any questions or chatting about packaging, because I think it's pretty cool. And I would especially love to talk about ESM, that is to say, ES 2017 modules, with anyone who wants to talk about them. There's a lot going on there.